Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And it is such a beautiful day in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's a lot warmer, and I'm able to sit outside with no coat on today. The sun is shining. There's people walking the streets. I'm getting to wave to my neighbors. It's really nice today. So I'm trying to sit out here and make a couple videos before it starts getting cooler and the sun goes down. The sun goes down. And so I was reading through the comments, and I received this comment a couple days ago on a video. And somebody said, I asked this on your vlog channel already, but maybe this channel is best for it. What are your thoughts on doing an intervention on a family member, and if you believe it's successful? Love your videos, Peter. Take care of yourself, and we'll be here when you come back, because I've taken a couple days off from filming videos. So thank you so much for the comment and the kind words. I really appreciate it. It's an interesting conversation in talking about interventions. So before I get into that, I want to just say that anything that I share in these videos is just based on personal experience. It's not, you know, expert opinion or anything like that. And so I just want to make that very, very clear. I do have a history of knowing a lot of people that have had interventions, or family members that have done interventions and things like that. And I watched, I think, probably for 10 years straight, the show Intervention and things like that. And I've had a lot of opinions about it. So I want to go in here first, and I want to look up what is an intervention, just so that we're all kind of on the same page, because I don't want to give you guys a definition that doesn't make sense. So hold on just a second. This is from the Mayo Clinic. Intervention: help a loved one overcome addiction. So it's pulling up. An intervention can motivate someone to seek help for alcohol or drug misuse, compulsive eating, or other addictive behaviors, discover when to hold one and how to make it successful. And it goes in here and talks about, you know, what is the different factors of what would lead somebody to get an intervention. It says, what is an intervention? An intervention is a carefully planned process that family and friends can do, working with a doctor or another healthcare professional, such as a licensed alcohol and drug counselor. An intervention professional, also known as an interventionist, also could direct an intervention. It sometimes includes a member of your loved one's faith community or others who care about the person struggling with addiction. During the intervention, these people gather together to face your loved one, talk about the effects of their addiction, and ask them to accept treatment. The intervention provides examples of destructive behaviors and how they affect your loved one with the addiction, as well as family and friends. Offers a treatment plan with clear steps, goals, and guidelines. Spells out what each people will do if your loved one doesn't accept treatment. So what you do is, typically people work with an addiction specialist, like a doctor or an interventionist. Interventionists are highly trained specialists in the field of doing interventions. I would always recommend, just because of the people that I know that it's been successful with, to hire an addictions interventionist in your town. And they're really, to be honest with you, like, I know in Indianapolis, there's like one guy here that is really well known for doing interventions, and there might be like one or two other people that I've heard of, but it's not that common of a profession. It's like a very, very highly trained profession. You have to be very well at doing it too, or you have to be very well trained at doing it too, because you have to be able to work with a family and pulling out their being able to be honest with their family member that they're scared to be honest with, right? That they probably, to some degree, have been enabling for years and years on end. And then at the same time, they have to be very direct, but also very compassionate with the addict, the alcoholic, or the person that has the issue. And so what the interventionist would do, based on what I've heard, is that they would sit with the family first, the people that come to them, and they would say, like, tell me what's going on. If you've ever watched the show Intervention, you know what I'm talking about. And then they would, you know, sit down with them and say what's going on, and then they would plan how it was going to happen, that they would surprise the person with the intervention. It's not like they say, okay, today at 2 o'clock you're going to show up, we're going to do an intervention. They usually surprise them, because most people don't want to walk into that because they feel like they're walking into the lion's den. Then they would have them craft up letters where they write down ways in which their destructive behavior is affecting them personally, and they ask them to accept treatment. So at that point, they've already set up a treatment option for them. They found a treatment program, they have found a treatment facility, or whether it's in-state, out-of-state, whatever, and they've already set that up so that that person can go from the intervention straight to treatment, okay? And then what they say is, I'm asking you to accept treatment. What they usually say also is, and if you do not, then this is is what will happen. Like, you will no longer be invited to holidays at my house. You no longer will be around my children and my family. You no longer are welcome in my home. I won't be interacting with you. I won't take your phone calls, on and on and on. There's many, many things that people can do, right? And that's kind of how you set up an intervention. Then you bring the person in, the addict, the alcoholic, the person that has destructive behaviors. You bring them in, and the interventionist kind of explains to them what's going on, that their family is very, very concerned about them, their family and friends. Usually there's like a best friend that's involved in it too, or that's kind of outside of the destructive behaviors, and or people that have been like, you know, co-workers, things like that, or like they said, like clergy that have been directly affected by it. And then what you do is you, the interventionist would go around and explain that these people really, really care about you and they want to share with you a little bit of what's going on. And then they pick somebody to like read the letter and then they go around. Now, from what I have heard, okay, and what I've heard that the show Intervention, and like from people that I know that have had interventions and people, family members that I know that have done interventions don't typically go the way that they go on the show Intervention, okay? It's still baffling to me, after 20 years of that show being on TV, that somebody from day one, having a camera follow them around while they're engaged in destructive behaviors, doesn't know that this is going to end up with an intervention. The show, just to me, at this point, it's like, is it a way for people to get free treatment? If that's the case, then hey, fantastic, right? But like, still to me, it kind of seems like, it seems staged a lot. But I will tell you that I love a lot of the interventionists. The woman that's on there, I believe her name is Candy. I don't know if she's on there anymore, but she was on there back in the day. She had real short hair. She was fantastic. Because to be a really good interventionist, and also to be anybody that's kind of like talking to addicts and alcoholics, you have to walk a very like balanced line between being compassionate and being direct, right? And setting boundaries with that person. And she was fantastic at that. I mean, I would watch her and just be mesmerized. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this, right? But I have to tell you, I mean, I would say that 90% of the people that I know that are families that have either had interventions with their person, or people that I know that had their family do interventions on them, it's not successful. It really isn't. And typically, as soon as they enter the room, they see everybody sitting there, they bolt, they leave. And that's as far as the intervention goes. Or they'll sit down and they hear one or two people, and then they're like, I'm not listening to this anymore, I can't handle this, and they leave, right? Very few of them make it to the very end of the intervention and listen to the treatment options. And then if they do listen to the treatment options, this is typically what happens, okay? Is that a few of them will end up taking the treatment options. But also what has to happen at that point is that addict or alcoholic or person with destructive behaviors has to also be able to see how it is affecting their life at that point, which is really what you're trying to do with the friends and the family, okay? Is to show this, you are hurting a lot of people around you, and therefore you're hurting yourself. You're really trying to show how it's affecting them. And so like, as with like myself, you know, that at some point, like, the bad times had to outweigh the good times for me to say, I'm done with the good times. And even when I got sober, I was still having a few good times that I could kind of cling on to, right? And so they have to kind of, like, be able to see that through this process, that I'm, like, they have to be, to some degree, I'm not a believer that, like, I'm a believer that you can, like, you know, get somebody into treatment, you know, set boundaries and limits and not enable them anymore, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and have them have consequences, and then they can get sober as a result of that. I think that's typically how most people, I don't think most people show up and go, I'm here for treatment, I'm so excited, right? But when they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, like I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and then the boundary is set, and then they have people that say, we're no longer going to enable you anymore, and then they also have consequences because that person says, you're not going to be welcome in my home, you're not coming to holidays anymore, I'm not helping you out financially, and they go, oh my God, like this is all piling up. Then what that says to them is, this might be the opportune time for me to be done, right? So the timing of all of it is very, like, important in all of this, right? Like I said, I am not an interventionist specialist or any of that kind of stuff. It's just from personal experience of people that I know. I did not have an intervention. So, I mean, I've had, at times, people sit down with me and talk to me, but there was never a planned intervention that happened. We'll start your car, okay? But, I mean, I have known people, and it's worked successfully. I've had people that I know in my life that it worked very, very successfully for them. And I've had other people that I know, am I getting an Amazon package? Right in the middle of my discussion about an intervention? Am I getting nope, I think my neighbor is across the street. But, or is it for me? Oh, it's my neighbor across the street. But anyway, Like, I've seen a lot of people that just walk away and they're like, I'm not having part of this. And once you do it one time, the chance of getting that person back into that room to have that conversation is not very likely. It's not going to happen again, you know? I think most people out there at this point either have a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, typically a family member, a close family member that has addiction issues, okay? If you've ever approached that person, like people approached me when I was in my active addiction and said, I want to sit and talk to you about your addiction, you know, the addict doesn't want to have that conversation. They're like, I'm not having this conversation with you, you know, because you're coming for the one thing that they love. You're attacking the one thing that they love the most, the one thing that means the most to them in their life. So they're not going to have that conversation because they know you're trying to take that thing out of it. You know, as addicts and alcoholics, we really have a real romantic, true relationship to some degree, a love relationship with our substances of choice, that we grieve with them, we celebrate with them, we relax with them, we deal with our emotions with them, we mute our emotions with them. And so to take that one thing, I mean, it's almost like like when I was in treatment several different times, I had to write letters to my drug of choice or alcohol or whatever, you know, and why I was breaking up with them and leaving them and things like that. Hey, how are you? Hold on just a second. Okay, I'm back. Got my Amazon package. So anyway, I have no idea what that is. I ordered a bunch of skincare, so I think it's skincare. But anyway, you know, I had to write, when I was in treatment, I had to write love letters, you know, several different times to, like, alcohol or my drug of choice to say why I was breaking up with them and why I was leaving them. And it might sound like a ridiculous exercise, but in all honesty, it was like taking a look at this relationship that I had built with this substance and what this substance was doing for me, you know? And that I was grieving with this substance, that I was celebrating, entertaining, that I was relaxing, and mostly that I was muting it, you know? And in some kind of way, in writing that letter to my substance of choice, what it made me look at was that I did kind of talk to that alternate self of myself, that drunk self or whatever, you know, in a way that I leaned on that a lot. And I think most addicts or alcoholics that you talk to will tell you that they were so scared of giving up that drug or that substance because they almost saw it as a best friend or a lover. Like, it was really like breaking up with them. So you're not going to get that person back in the room again if you do it once and you fail. What I will tell you is, with any intervention that I have known that has worked successfully, the reason that it has worked is not necessarily because of the addict or the alcoholic. It has worked because of the people in the room, okay? And that the people in the room are willing to stick to what they say, that what they put out there, okay? And they say, if you do not accept treatment at this time, if you are not willing to get clean and sober at this time, I am done with you, okay? That means don't call me for money, I'm not taking your phone calls, whatever, right? We're very selfish and codependent on our relationships with addicts and alcoholics. Many people, when the addict or the alcoholic in your life is 30, 40, or 50 years old, you have a 50-year relationship with that addict or alcoholic of enabling them, of being codependent. Like, to some degree, many of us, when you look at family systems and things like that, okay, we don't know who we are if we are not taking care of that addict or alcoholic or that dysfunctional, sick person in our lives. We don't know who we are, right? So when they go out and you set that boundary or that limit, and then you get that phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that person's like, Mom, I swear, if you just give me $20 just this one time, I'll never ask again. Then that person gives them $20 because they're like, I'm so scared, and they're not working on their own codependency, their own issues of them taking care of the addict or the alcoholic, because everybody has to do work in this whole situation, okay? It's why we call it a family disease. Everybody is affected, okay, by an addict or an alcoholic. So you have that one person out of, let's say, 10 that they call because they go to the weakest point, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, Mom, I swear I'm gonna die if I can't, just $20, I don't have any food to eat, Mom, like, seriously, I don't even have a place to stay tonight. And so Mom gives them $20, okay, and thinks that she's doing the right thing. It's not like she's doing something because she's a horrible person. She thinks that she's doing the right thing because she's being manipulated yet again, right? And she gives them $20. Well, that's the crack in the system. So now that $20 is not just $20, it's a crack in the intervention. And so all the other 9 people that are holding together, they don't know that Mom has given them that $20, and that person's left treatment, and they're not doing anything anymore because they know they can manipulate Mom. And if they can manipulate Mom, they can manipulate the next person, the next person, the next person, and what you see is the whole system falls apart. So for an intervention to work, the person has to really be sick and tired of being sick and tired, not to mention whatever you have that is helping them to stay alive or helping to put a roof over their head or food on their table, you have to be willing to take that away. And that's really scary, you know? I mean, I have friends of mine that are sober that have to set limits and boundaries with people in their life, and they know this and have been sober for 20 plus years and will call me and say, crying, I don't think I can do this. Like, what if they don't have anywhere to sleep and they're sleeping outside? And I'm like, we did this. We lived this. We manipulated people this way, right? Like, these were the same things we said to people when we were in our active addiction. I know, but it's different, and it is. Because when I was going through it with my mom, it was a completely different story, even though I was living it at the same time, you know? It's so hard. So yes, I believe that interventions work. Get a really good interventionist, somebody that is really well known. Call a treatment center in your town. Look up the best treatment facility, okay, in your town, and call them and say, call the admissions department and say, we're looking for an interventionist. We're not looking for treatment right now, because an interventionist will help you set up the treatment option. They have ties to treatment centers. Say, we just need the name of an interventionist. Then what they will say is, come in, we'll sit down, you don't have to bring the whole family, just you and your husband, or, you know, you by yourself, come in and talk to me about what's going on, and then that's where the plan will start. But everybody in that room has to be committed to doing what they're going to say, you know? I've had so many friends of mine that have since passed away that manipulated the weakest family member to get back what they wanted. I mean, I've seen people that literally had, you know, chance upon chance upon chance upon chance. And I mean, friends of mine that have ended up in the hospitals for overdoses 20, 30 times. And the same person that they would go to every single time because they were so scared. You know, it's not because they're bad people. It's not the family members are bad people. The addicts aren't bad people. They're sick people trying to get well, you know? And the family members or the friends, they're not bad people either. They just want to help the person. They love the person, right? So if they see that person in pain or not being able to eat or not being able to have a roof over their head, they don't really know what to do. And so their only go-to is to protect them as best they can. If I give them, they'll say things like, if I give you a place to stay tonight, if I buy you food, will you promise me that you will not use? I promise you, Mom, I promise. If you give me $100 and a place to stay tonight, give me a hotel room I will not use. And as soon as they get off the phone, that $100 is in their hand, they're buying dope and they're in that hotel room with their friends getting high, okay? It's not personal. If love and promises were enough, we wouldn't need treatment programs, hospitals, specialists, experts, and 12-step programs. We just wouldn't. I've had so many family members over the years, when I've had friends of mine that have passed away from overdoses, come to me up at funerals and say, I don't understand, I love them so much, and it breaks my heart. And no, that's not the moment for me to look at them and say, love has nothing to do with it. But love has nothing to do with it, you know? Setting limits, setting boundaries, you know? One thing that we do understand as addicts and alcoholics is when we have pissed somebody off or we've disappointed somebody and they're no longer willing to engage in our game, when we lose people. And when you have an addict or an alcoholic that has 10 people they're manipulating and all of a sudden that 10 goes to 0 and they have nobody that they can manipulate to help take care of them anymore and they're out there and alone, trust me, they might walk around for a while, for 24 hours. One of the reasons why I got sober, you know, was not out of fear of going to prison, was not a fear of this, was that my dad was done. And he was like, you will not have a place to live if you continue to use. I was afraid of being homeless, and I knew that my friends were tired of me couch surfing, right? So I was going to have no place to live. My fear of being homeless was greater than any fear in my life, and so that was one of my major reasons to get sober. Because I knew that I had already exhausted all of my places. I had already exhausted manipulating people enough. I was getting hung up on phone calls. Nobody was going to help me anymore, right? So there was nowhere for me to turn. My only option at that point was to get sober. And when I first got sober, I thought, I've told this in videos, I'll do this for a while and to get people off my back. And then I'm going to go back and do what I want to do slowly, you know? So yes, I believe that interventions work, but the people that are doing them have to be extremely invested in sticking to the commitments that they make, you know? And that is true love. That's tough love, but it's true love. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.